I bet you forgot that Dwayne Johnson's even in this movie. You can tell he's plotting his escape to become a serious action star. Blink and you'll miss the charisma. I'm Seth, and it's day 27 of 365 reviewing every movie I've seen in theaters with the ticket stubs to prove it. Today's movie, Get Smart. Question of the day, what's your favorite slapstick comedy? This one's directed by Peter Segal and stars Steve Carell, Anne Hathaway, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I saw this one in 2008 and I laughed until I cried. Now I'm surprised at how much of it still actually lands. This is right before The Dark Knight changed blockbusters forever. And fun fact, Get Smart came out just weeks before it, which is, I'm probably sure why many people have forgotten it. Back then, I thought Steve Carell was one of the funniest people on television, so to see that he was getting his own spy movie, I was in. As an adult, some of these jokes haven't aged super well, but Steve Carell, boy does he age well. That's a silver fox right there. Anne Hathaway is really holding her own, and The Rock looks like he would leave production if you gave him permission. Get smart, get wicked smart. This is another one of my stubs that's in excellent condition from 2008. According to this stub, I saw it 3 days before my birthday, so I would have just not quite been 17 when I went to see this. For context, I'm a big fan of the Naked Gun movies, of the Zucker brothers style of comedy. It was very specific to its era. It's a style of comedy that takes a lot of wit, and matching that with really interesting, fun filmmaking is a absolute recipe for a hit, if you ask me. And we loved these kinds of movies, even rolling into the 2000s. I think about Kung Pao Enter the Fist and how similar that is to the energy of movies like this, where things can just happen because it's a movie. Your suspension of disbelief is different in a movie that isn't taking you extra super seriously and actually wants to lean into the fact that, hey, this is a movie. We can kind of do whatever we want, even if things don't make exactly realistic, logical, real-world sense. And I'm sad to say this might be one of the last ones of these movies that we get. And honestly, I'd love to see more in this style. I think these kinds of jokes really work. They're inventive and they're funny. If you've never seen the movie Top Secret starring Val Kilmer, that is by far my favorite and the best of this style of comedy. It is absolutely hilarious the way the movie mocks you for wanting to take it seriously. When you get into something like Get Smart, realism is becoming the most important thing in cinema. And the movie that I'm reviewing tomorrow, The Dark Knight, is a big reason for that. You can take Batman out of his own Batman movie and it still works as a procedural crime drama. So now we've got Get Smart coming to theaters, and it is trying to weave back and forth between realistic, cool spy movie stuff that we've made so much better in the last few decades since these movies were really popular, and it wants to dip its toes into the funny, over-the-top, non-diegetic kinds of jokes that this movie can do. I don't know how well it toes that line at this point. Some of the plot stuff ends up being actually very unfunny to me. I've recently lost over 100 pounds, and that is one of the plot elements within this story. However, Steve Carell in a fat suit does not really make me laugh. Not in the same way that Kung Fu Panda, which we just talked about, is also talking about fat characters and letting them be fat and funny. Instead of giving us a fat agent, which could have maybe played really well, it instead opts to make his weight loss like a point of pride, a point of contention, and a plot point and a comedy point. There's just too much cooking on that. In the next scenes, we're going to see someone like Bill Murray hiding inside of a tree, just to have him hiding inside of a tree. I think it's also really funny to read the Wikipedia of this movie as compared to what happens in the film. It's really funny to just hear the plot points that they want you to follow. This is attempting to be an actual spy movie of sorts. I don't know how well it works for that, if I'm being honest. I think the movie works best when it's not trying to be an action movie. And that's not to say some of the action beats don't work really well, and some of the comedy within the action doesn't work really well. But they've brought in someone like Dwayne Johnson, who is an actual action star, and you can tell he kind of doesn't want to be here. He, to me, reads as if he's not sure if people are laughing at him or with him. And right after this, he forms his own company and starts making nothing but bullshit movies for the next decade because he wants to be so insulated from the opinions of other people. This is a side thing I talk about on my podcast a lot. I like Dwayne Johnson a lot. He's got a new movie coming out soon that actually excites me because he's got prosthetics and it sounds like he actually had to show up and work That is not something he liked doing previous to this new A24 movie coming out, and you can see it really starting here where you can tell he doesn't really seem to like being part of these big budget blockbuster collaboration type things. He wants to run the show, he wants to call the shots, and he is not the kind of person to find this kind of stuff specifically extra funny, especially when he's the butt of the joke. Compare that to Steve Carell, who is just so down to make all of these jokes. This is exactly his style of comedy. He enjoys this stuff. He's a fan of this kind of stuff. This is based on a Mel Brooks creation. Mel Brooks is one of the most influential comedy producers, directors, and writers that we have. We still have him. Thank you for now. Spaceballs 2, I'm not holding out any fucking hope, but goddamn could we use that after the Rise of Skywalker. The cast is totally stacked out. The story is most of the way there. The comedy mostly works. One of my favorite jokes from when I saw this in theaters is a joke that I feel differently about now because I've become a more empathetic person as I've grown. I won't say what the joke was, but it's an example of taking potshots at disenfranchised communities for the sake of a quick, easy joke instead of taking the time to really craft a joke around it. Like I said, some of the jokes at the cost of people within disabled communities. These are the things from 2008 that have not aged well. This is an America that had been under George Bush for a hot minute, and we really wanted to, as a society, push these jokes into really uncomfortable, ugly places that only work if you're telling them in insulated rooms of white men at youth group. You wouldn't make some of these jokes to someone in a wheelchair, or if you would, you're probably a shitty person. Again, this is a journal of my movie journey, not a full-on film review. I'm calling out our society and people within it for how we've consumed movies and how shitty we used to be about a lot of this stuff. If that hurts your feelings, fuck off. All in all, I don't know if this one's worth the revisit when you have movies like Naked Gun and Top Secret and things that have also not aged super well but are more understanding of it because they're from the 80s. I really hope this style of comedy doesn't die. I would love to make a movie in this styling. I think it's really fun. I enjoy clever puns. I enjoy sight gags. I enjoy this kind of thing. I think Liam Neeson's got a brand new Naked Gun movie coming out, so like maybe this isn't a totally dead comedy styling after all, but I just don't see that one having any kind of cultural impact. This movie definitely didn't have any kind of cultural impact. Honestly, I think the last time a movie like this had cultural impact was VHS from Weird Al Yankovic. I think that's going to do it for this one. It's been fun to get into comedy, but I'm starting to remember how much of the mid-2000s was mid-ass comedy, and while this isn't all mid, there's a lot of mid in here. I'm really not looking forward to the Hangover movies when I get to them. That's a trilogy that has just not aged super well, and I know it, having not seen them since the mid-2000s. Our next movie is The Dark Knight. If you enjoyed this review or want to hear that one, go ahead and give me a follow. It would also mean a lot to me if you checked out my Patreon, so much in fact that I'll give you one of my movie stubs just for signing up for my Patreon. I'm excited to talk about Batman some more. I know I was a little Batman heavy at the beginning of this series. We're about to get back into it for just a minute, so I'll try to give you more Batman thoughts that aren't related to previous Batman thoughts. That's a deeply influential movie that we're still seeing the effects of today. Thunderbolts is coming to theaters, I think, yesterday, and has a shot in it that is just ripped straight from The Dark Knight. I'm excited to chat with you guys in the comments, and as always, I will see you tomorrow.